Tell us about your strongest and proudest accomplishments.
Well, for me, I really feel that BTX Fiber, our broadband project, is going to be huge. I feel that now that we've broken ground, we're seeing that start to come out. It's going to be probably about a 24-month project. We're seeing the connectivity from Brownsville being one of the least connected to now one of the best connected in the U.S. We get a lot of attention for that because we're doing it the right way. We're doing a really innovative public-private partnership, which cities like ours don't really get a whole lot of opportunities to bridge that digital divide. But we found a creative way to do it, and it's going to really improve our city for decades.
What do you?
Any other questions for the mayor?
Yes, if I may. Trey, you said that you're most proud of your internet fiber to the home because of the potential, what it can do for Brownsville. Tell us more about that award that you won, because I don't think we heard too much about it.
It was a Changemaker Award. I was recognized with a national award for a Changemaker because of the work that we were doing to bridge the digital divide here in Brownsville. I mean, it's very innovative. No other community like ours has really tackled this issue and done it and actually succeeded. We're seeing some other communities that are on their way, hopefully doing it. They're doing it different ways, but ours is innovative because it's a public-private partnership where we're putting in money and we have others putting in money that believe in our city. So it's, for us, it's a huge deal. I get a lot of other communities that ask how we did it, so I'm proud to lend some of that knowledge. And I'm going to continue talking about that here in the next couple of weeks. Actually, next week, I'll be at the Summit of Americas talking about broadband specifically with the NTIA with the federal government. So it's a big deal, and it's gotten us a lot of attention. We still have to finish the job, but it's going to be huge.
And because you're so aligned with it, the focus is always on yourself when we talk about this. Are you convinced, can you assure the people of Brownsville that as you step down and you're no longer the mayor, that there will still be the impetus to get it going and finish the job, etc.?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know it's been kind of my project, but thankfully the commission has supported it. Our city administration, Helen's done a great job of supporting that. They realize the impact. They realize what it's going to bring to our community, how it's going to change and transform our community. And I don't see any real concerns with that project continuing forward.
Any other questions in English?
But also making us more competitive is being connected.
Absolutely.
And our digital divide story starts in 2019. When I was elected in 2019, Brownsville, Texas was actually ranked as one of the least connected communities. Depends who you ask, even the least connected community in the whole country.
Was
in 2019, at least. So at least 65%, 67% of individuals did not have access to internet or connectivity. So in 2019, that was in 2019, we were ranked one of the least connected in the whole country. For me, that was unacceptable because that brings on all sorts of other issues. It makes you, not only are you less connected, you can't get online, but for education, it makes our students less competitive. It doesn't give them that access to that education they need. For the health industry, telehealth. It wasn't a thing back maybe in 2019, certainly a thing now, but that made us less competitive on a bigger scale. And for me, that was just something that we needed to fix. So we convened a group of stakeholders in late 2019, shortly after I was elected. We got 6 stakeholder entities together. They all funded a master plan to figure out how we were going to try and tackle the digital divide here in Brownsville.
And this was 2019?
2019.
Just before the pandemic.
Very fortunate timing. But again, I heard this analogy once, and it's a hockey analogy, but it says, you don't want to skate to where the puck is. You want to skate to where the puck is going to be, right? That's how you get out ahead. That's how you score. So for us, it was about planning ahead. So that thought was, how do we make ourselves more competitive? How do we get to where we want to be, right? So it was fortunate timing that 6 months later, this pandemic happens and we know nothing else but to get online and talk to each other that way, right?
Full Zoom.
So we were lucky that we started our plan in 2019, worked through it in 2020, formulated that plan in late 2020. Really in 2021, we hit the jets and really started to focus on how we're gonna do it, then how are we gonna fund it. Thankfully, the presidential administration came out with ARPA, which helped us close that gap. So because of ARPA funding from the federal government, we used $20 million of our money to build the middle mile in Brownsville, right? So The middle mile, for those that aren't familiar with middle mile, last mile, the middle mile is kind of comparable to a highway. So you need to have that highway. Then the last mile, which is also called fiber to the home, is kind of like the roads you take to get home, right? So the city of Brownsville partnered with another company called Lit Communities that was willing to invest in Brownsville, saw the use case for Brownsville. Other incumbent providers at the time, AT&T, Charter Spectrum,
What was this, the first one you mentioned?
Lit, AT&T?
No, the communities.
Lit Communities.
Where are they from?
They are based in Texas.
Okay.
So, we tried working with other incumbent providers, and I mean, I understand their part. They weren't interested in doing this in Brownsville because it wasn't a business case for them. We didn't have the economic data to support them investing tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars in the infrastructure, the fiber infrastructure for South Texas, because they weren't going to get that money back. That's capitalism, that's the way it works. But that was a challenge that we had, and that's a challenge that we had to find a creative, innovative solution for.
You weren't being intentional about solving this problem.
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be, right? I wasn't gonna leave office without figuring out a solution.
But you were also not afraid to, you were not shying away from the challenges.
No, not at all.
Because a
I
lot of
thrive on
cities,
challenges.
try to, dust the rust under the carpet, right? They try to stay away from speaking about the challenges or speaking about, some of their, I would say, lack of policy in the moment or lack of opportunities, and they rather focus on just the wins. And when you do that, you're not attracting the opportunities in terms of help, in terms of, for example, you mentioned Lit Communities, but you also have Bloomberg Philanthropies, you also have Rockefeller Foundation. You have a lot of these organizations out there that could support cities, but some cities just want to talk about their wins.
Well, actually, because of Bloomberg Philanthropies, we were able to find a way to use that ARPA funding for this, right? So because of my relationship with Bloomberg at Harvard and all that, we were able to get some of that support from them to help us with this. So at the end of the day, fast forward 2022, we enter into a partnership with Lit Communities. We put in $20 million for the middle mile. They find the investors for the last $70 million to build the fiber to the home. You're looking at a $100 million project, 100 miles of middle mile, 550 miles of last mile. We broke ground just a couple months ago. You're seeing all the yellow fiber out there getting laid out in the city of Brownsville. So now our story started in 2019 as one of the least connected communities in the US. Now 2023, we are just a year away from being one of the best connected communities in the US and a model community for solving this issue and solving it creatively, solving it through a public-private partnership, because that was the only way we were going to do it. We had to get creative. We found a way to do it. The federal government helped. Bloomberg Philanthropies helped. Just having our eye on that and the goal got us there.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
And one thing about that too, if I can add, because of the economics, because of the socioeconomics here in the Valley, the federal government has what's called the ACP, Affordable Connectivity Program. So for students that qualify for free lunches, the federal government provides a $30 stipend for internet for connectivity. So our bottom tier network, our bottom tier plan for our BTX Fiber network is going to start at $30, and it's going to be 100-100 symmetrical connection. So you're looking at a minimum. The federal standards minimum are 25 up, 25 download, 3 upload. So upload is when you're trying to broadcast something to the other side. Download, obviously, we know what that means. So right now, the federal standard is 25.3. So if you have 25 download speed and 3 upload speed, you're considered connected. You're considered okay. Our minimum service is going to be 100 symmetrical, 100, and that's going to start at $30 because of the economics in the region. Most people are going to qualify to get that for free.
That's amazing. That's amazing. That's amazing. You guys been thinking a lot about investing heavily in your community, right? And the investments that are made today are going to be felt in the next 10, 15 years. It reminds me of the story of Pittsburgh. Have you heard of the story of Pittsburgh? How they went from the steel industry to robotics? So they were a big part of the Rust Belt, right? In the East Coast. And they benefited a lot from the steel industry, big time. But then the steel industry collapsed, the manufacturing of steel. We're talking about anywhere between the 30s all the way to the 70s. And the big challenge that they felt as a community was that they were so dependent on this industry. And I'm talking about, think of it as a satellite economy, right? All the surrounding businesses depending on just one industry. But something that happened that is really interesting is that they started investing in long-term investment, right? In terms of the technology that they wanted to adopt as a university, as Carnegie Mellon. And they did it in the form of robotics, right? It gets me thinking a lot about what you're doing right now, investing in the digital infrastructure, investing in for example, welcoming SpaceX and being bullish on the idea of its impact in the economy, and maybe not just immediately, but long-term, right? And I think we need to celebrate those collective wins as a community here in Brownsville, in the Rio Grande Valley. We need to do more of it, right? The investments that are being made today are gonna be felt not in the next 5 years, but maybe in the next 10 years. And I think the Pittsburgh story is the story of what they call new localism, right? Which is a theory of change, of putting public policy, but also data-driven solutions together, right? And figuring out what the economy, what the identity is around, those values that they represent as a city.
But look at, just being connected. If you're not connected nowadays, you're not competitive. It creates so many issues, and that's why it's called the digital divide, because that divide gets bigger as you go. The way that the internet works and the way connectivity works, things move so quickly that every day that you wait, you're like 2 days behind.
Absolutely.
So I feel great about our position, but I also realize the opportunities that it's going to bring. Because now that we're going to have this connectivity, we're so much more competitive. There's so many more opportunities for people to stay in Brownsville, for businesses to relocate here. It gives us another tool in our toolbox to try and recruit business to Brownsville. And it's something that no other community down here can provide.
So we can keep talking, right? And if you bring us a beer, we can keep talking all night. But we want to open it up to the public, if that's possible. Linda?
Yes, I'm over here.
There you go.
So I have a mic. Whoever has a question, please raise your hand, and there you go.
Hi, this is Eduardo Serra. This question is for you, Beto. There's some careers when you doing step by step, you're building up your career. But then sometimes something happened to make a big change. Something happened with your career that did something like that, like a big change, or was like a day by day career way up?
That's a good question. Eduardo, right?
Eduardo, right.
And where are you from, Eduardo?
Actually from Monterey, but I'm more locally right now.
Okay.
I'm moving from here.
You're from here.
Yes.
That's a great question, Eduardo. So I haven't even talked about my journey, but I started my company as a result of getting involved politically. So I spent some time organizing politically here in South Texas, specifically in Mission for a state representative, Sergio Munoz. He's still in office. And at the time he was young, he was 28. I think that's when I met you, right, Steve? Back then, it was 12 years ago, 13 years ago. And 15 almost. But I remember that I was talking to people, right, and getting to learn about, what organizing was all about. But I ended up doing a MALC scholarship program that I was working on in the Capitol. And I got really interested in politics, right? And that's what I wanted to do. And I got heavily involved. I went to work in the U.S. Senate, then State Department, the White House as well, did all of that. But it got to a point, right, to your question, where I did see myself in politics. I still love politics. I think public service is beautiful. By the way, we need more talented public servants. Don't shy away from running for office or getting involved in politics. Many times, talented people stay away from politics because there's a lot of drama, but then you don't have the right people leading. No, you are the right people.
He says this just as I'm retiring now. I got 2 months left.
No, but it's true. It's true. We need more talented people to step into political office. But aside from that, what happened to me that was very unique was that when I was living in Barcelona, working for the State Department at the time, there was this movement, the Smart Cities movement. This is 2014, right? And so I had already experienced what it was working in the GovTech world. What is that? Well, I was working for Senator John Kerry at the time in the Foreign Relations Committee, and he was dealing with the Syria crisis, and I was managing his Twitter account. So there's this 22-year-old managing his Twitter account. Can you believe that? Back then it wasn't a big deal, Twitter, right? So that's why they let me use it, right? But now they have a whole office dedicated to Twitter, just to Twitter, for a Senate office. But there I am, just tweeting away, right? And whatever, I took notes in the committee, and that's what I was posting. And I had nobody approving tweets. I was just tweeting away. That was really funny. Yeah, that was 2012. But so that was my introduction to digital government, right? And that is connected in a way to smart cities, right? When you think about local government. So when I was working in 2014 in Barcelona, I was just paying attention to local government technology. And I saw how the private sector was stimulating a lot of the technology inside of local governments. So I took some of those trends and tendencies and just, I was taking notes, mental notes. I moved back to Texas and I started working for this gentleman. His name is Andy Brown. He's now the county judge of Travis County. But at the time he was a lawyer. He was running for office. He lost that race. But I learned a lot in that campaign and several nuggets of knowledge. And one of them was that people needed a tool or solution to communicate with their local government. People were not calling anymore. People were tired of waiting for 20 minutes on the line. And so this is where I get the idea for my first company that then evolved. It's the same company, different investors, different company today in terms of the product. But my first product was called a city flag. You put a flag in your city. You report something that you see in your community that needs fixing, like a pothole, lack of lighting, you name it, right? And you can see my background in politics and public service and government, how it connected to the tech world, right? I saw a problem and I wanted to find a solution, but I wasn't gonna find that solution from working inside of government. I wanted to come in and disrupt the process as a technologist, as a social entrepreneur, and that's what I did. I started my company. My first client was the city of San Antonio. They took a risk on this 27-year-old at the time, and my team was only 4 people. I competed against Motorola, against AT&T, and on the RFP process, and we won. And we then had to design and implement the product, which I'm not going to go into that story. I actually wrote about it. It's a whole journey of working with government, especially a big city like San Antonio, but we succeeded. And today it's an award-winning product, globally recognized. Hundreds of thousands of people have made reports in the city of San Antonio. We have fixed more than $50 million of issues that people have reported through our platform, and 92% of them have been addressed by the city of San Antonio, creating a local impact in San Antonio that has never been seen before, or in a qualitative state. So that's the journey of my company. Today, we no longer just work with city governments. We work with the DoD in terms of preventive maintenance. Think of the missiles, equipment, facilities. Our software is a preventive maintenance solution, and we do deep research as well for the DoD. What does that mean? We develop prototypes, we break them, we test them. Some of them become products, some of them don't. Which, by the way, that's another nugget of knowledge that I want to leave behind. And that's something that I think here at eBridge we should explore, which is the SIBR grants, which is the Small Business Innovation and Research grants. I think here in the Valley we should be nurturing the applications to those grants. And I know, Linda, that's on top of your mind, but through those grants, that's how I started working with the DoD, and also work with engineering companies on urban resilience data. What does that look like? Well, and that product was recognized, by the way, by the United Nations for COP26 for climate change. The product, what it does is compiles data from social media, but also qualitative data coming from the people in terms of flooding and sea level rising. And so that's the company today, and it's called Iris, no longer City Flag.
Thank you.
And now John Kerry's doing your tweets, right?
Now I'm just tweeting on my account.
But let me give Eduardo a shout out too, because Eduardo's a recipient of a Launch BTX grant. And his company, his software company is something that we just funded through the Launch BTX grant. And in local government or in government, I think in order to see some of these successes, you have to be very intentional about how you go about it. So the city of Brownsville created this grant called the Launch BTX grant, and we set aside some money to fund entrepreneurs that are in the aerospace or other types of software industry to try and cultivate some of that and bring some of that research here, bring some of those companies here, because we always think, hey, if they start here, they're gonna stay here, right? So congratulations to you, and thank you for being here in Brownsville.
Just to add to that, he's also a soft landing. So he went through our ECC incubator program, and he's from Monterrey, and we soft landed him here in Brownsville. So he's now a U.S. company, prominent member of the Brownsville City.
If anybody wants more information on the Launch BTX, we actually have a member of GVIC's staff here that can talk to you about a little bit more. But I think you had a question.
So my question is for you, Beto, and it spins off of what the mayor spoke about in regard to keeping top talent here. And I wanted to know, how are we locating that talent, and what ideas do you have in finding that talent here in the Valley for tech companies like yourself?
Absolutely, that's a phenomenal question. I've been thinking a lot about that. In San Antonio, I'm part of Port San Antonio, which is a big incubation space for a lot of companies, but also a place where a lot of tenants like Boeing have their offices, and they're identifying talent in terms of working with smaller organizations and then partnering with them or even acquiring them. But that's not my answer. But that's where I work as a board member. But I've been thinking about it in terms of macro, right? Looking at South Texas as a region. I think that when you look at the South Texas Triangle, exactly. There you go. You're gonna go back home, Google it, or ChatGPT it. I've been thinking a lot about it from a regional perspective, right? I am bullish on the idea of technology. There's no going back. I mean, there's no going back. That's a fact. And I'm not saying that blue-collar jobs are going to disappear. Not at all. I think they're going to evolve, right? The mayor spoke about EV, right? We need EV technicians. We need them, and they are high salaries. I mean, we're talking about anywhere between 85 to 150,000 for an EV charger technician, right? So I don't think that blue-collar jobs are going to disappear. I think they are the backbone still of our economy as a whole, as a country, and I'm still bullish on blue-collar jobs. The only thing that I see is that there's going to be a shift in how that looks like, right? But let's talk about identifying talent, right? I think we need to be more intentional with technology. What does that look like, right? In terms of STEM, we need to build more schools that are teaching people how to code. And that's a reality. And coding doesn't necessarily is about yourself just coding away, right? I'm not a programmer. I run a tech company, right? But we got to leverage tools like ChatGPT, which is a language model that can actually code for you. Imagine if we start leveraging that here in the Rio Grande Valley. Imagine if we become an opportunity zone, right, in terms of developing professionals that are involved in the tech world, right? I think we can do that. And I'm talking because you no longer need to be in Silicon Valley, no offense, right? But you can be a professional that is working with a tech company from the Valley, right? So I think more schools, I think that could be a great opportunity. Also, retainment of talent in the form of building an ecosystem like eBridge, and also inviting people to visit the Valley, right? I know that tomorrow, who was telling me there's gonna be SpaceX is launching, right? We need to advertise what's going on here in Brownsville, in the Valley, and get people excited about the future of the Valley. If not, it's gonna be really hard to not only retain, but identify the talent. I see it, and on Monday, Ron Emmer was joking around, but not necessarily about finding the love of your life in a city, right? Like, people need to envision themselves having a family in the city, in the region, right? So if you don't have a healthy nightlife, you don't have a healthy environment that is conducive for people to have a good time, it's also going to be hard to identify the talent because they're not moving to Brownsville or to McAllen or to San Antonio. I'm serious. I know that it sounds funny, but young people, they want to find their significant other and have families, right? So if we can do that here in Brownsville, we can do that in the Valley, I think we could win. And that could be a good way to identify talent that is moving to Brownsville and harness that, and then ultimately build companies that are going to stimulate the economy for the Valley.
And that's a very real issue. And that's actually something that Elon Musk calls the significant other problem. Which
really?
is, yes, because he realized that attracting talent to SpaceX in Brownsville also required not just buy-in from the employee, but buy-in from their spouse or partner. So that is the significant other problem, is trying to create that city where not only the employee wants to come, but their spouse or partner also has buy-in and wants to come as well. Because if that spouse or partner doesn't have that buy-in, they're not coming.
They're not.
So Elon realized this, and that's why he's been supportive of the city of Brownsville as well, funding some money for downtown revitalization, realizing that in order to attract some of that talent, you have to build that city and that people want to come to and want to be living in. So, yep, there you
Yeah,
go,
so,
real
so
issue.
absolutely. So think about it. Education, right? Intentional on the future of work, which is technology, the quality of life, right? Which is where families are going to be excited about the region.
All three things the BCIC does.
There you go.
And ETC.
And hey, I wasn't done there. But we have time for one more question. Yeah.
So this might be kind of piggybacking on what he asked.
Yeah.
I'm very kind of passionate about getting young people.
Oh, we know.
involved-
We see you on the
involved
social medias.
in both the entrepreneurial world and then also the government. So, question for you, Mayor, and then for you, Beto, as well. What efforts are being done to involve young people to, pursue politics? Because right now, when you look at, a place like the Rio Grande Valley, you don't see a lot of young people outside yourself in politics. What can be done, or what is being done to attract young people to want to get involved in making a difference in the communities? And then when it comes to entrepreneurship as well, you realize a lot of, sometimes there's events, gatherings, networking. You never see young people at some of these events. And when you
I
speak
see
to
a lot of
them,
young people here.
but you go to an event like the McAllen Man and Woman of the Year, for example, or the State of the City address, and there's events that you don't see a lot of young people, and when you ask them, they say, I never knew about it.
Yeah.
Some of these events are not being put up in channels where there are a lot of young people, so it's like they're being slowly pushed towards a certain demographic. So what can be done to bridge that divide when it comes to young people?
Well, I think a young person that winds up serving or winds up being a public servant, first of all, they have to have that ambition, I think. I think they have to have that public service gene in them. For me, I never even thought I'd be in public service. I never saw it. I just felt like I was in a good position to be that person that would affect the change that we needed in order to build a community that we wanted to be, right? And I've never even considered myself a politician. I call myself a reluctant politician. But I think in order to attract young people, or in order to build that interest within that, you have to kind of generate that mindset. You have to make yourself accessible. You have to have events. You have to build places like this that are innovative and things that younger people want to be a part of. You have to build that community and build that city and build a government that young people want to be a part of. Because if they want to be a part of it, then they're gonna come to events like this. They're gonna gain that interest. That light's gonna go on that maybe was always there, but they never really realized it. And just by, I think, just being here, we see that leadership. You have to be a self-starter kind of nowadays too. I mean, building that interest, building the city. I've always said building a destination city for the city of Brownsville. I think being relatable as a leader for me, being accessible, and really working on building things that young people want to be a part of, for me has been, I think, one of the reasons we see some of that interest here in Brownsville.
And with digital tools, you can do it from anywhere, right? I think that's a great question. So I have a story. So in February, I met President Bill Clinton. It was an incredible conversation. It was like he was having a panel, but afterwards we had dinner with him, and he started talking about different ideas. You can see him. He's already reflecting too much on his journey, right? It's bittersweet, right, for any president, right, that is in the next chapter in their life, right? But it's also, it was great because I got to learn from him in terms of a couple of points that he made. Because to your question, how can young people get involved, either in business or in their city or in politics? And he was exploring the idea of, he kept talking about creating a doing culture in cities across the US. What does that mean, right? So he reflected on the idea of being intentional about doing things in life. Just trying it, doing it, going out there and building things. It can be businesses, it can be starting a campaign to run for office or a digital marketing agency, but doing it, building a doing culture, because then it trickles down, right? It's an effect where, if you see your friend, like Cesar over there, he starts a company, well, maybe I can do it too. So creating a doing culture, and it stuck with me, right? And I launched an initiative in San Antonio called Better Futures now, that highlights a lot of people doing things in different industries. amazing things that people sometimes don't hear about, right? Maybe in the tech industry, maybe in the restaurant business, and they're doing amazing stuff. So I think fostering a doing culture that starts with self-starters, I think that's important. The second one is that as leaders, it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter, we're all trying to figure out what life is about, right? I remember John Kerry talking about that, right? About how he was still figuring things out. And he was already the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee. So let's not shy away from making mistakes in life. Let's not shy away from expecting that we're always gonna win. You're gonna win 1 of 10, maybe, right? And that leads me to improvising with curiosity. I think that we need to do more improvising with curiosity. I think that's a winning recipe for a community that is aspirational. And in terms of aspiration, there's always a collective feeling in communities. Anywhere you go, Mountain, Silicon Valley, San Antonio, Austin, you name it. There's always a collective feeling. And sometimes it's aspirational, sometimes it's not aspirational. And I think here in San Antonio, Brownsville, my talking points, brother, my talking points.
That muscle memory.
You got me. It's televised too. No, but here in South Texas, not just.
It's a good catch-all.
No, it's South Texas. Here in South Texas, we need to have a more aspirational feeling to everything that we do. I think those are my final words. Be more aspirational.
Yeah, I think you have to have that curiosity, right? That's why I think most of y'all are probably here like, hey, we're gonna go listen to this guy from San Antonio and this mayor dude from Brownsville. Let's see what they're all about. Let's see what they have to say. But really, I think you have to have that ambition, or at least that drive to learn, and it never goes away. Like even John Kerry, Secretary of State, done all these things, and still has that thirst for knowledge, and still wants to continue to learn. And to do. But yeah, you never lose that. I haven't, at least not yet.
Oh, there's a lot that you're gonna do after this. I know.
I want to recharge the batteries.
Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, both of you, for being here, for inspiring our community. We're live streaming this event, so I'm hoping others are looking at it.
So the San Antonio thing is gonna come out.
Yes, it's gonna come out, Beto. I'm sorry, we can't cut it out.
Maybe we had some people from San Antonio watching.
Yes. So I can't thank you enough for making this event such an inspiring and different event for the Rio Grande Valley. This is what we wanted out of this series, to make sure that it was organic, that it was different, that it spurred a conversation that you don't hear too much about. We hear about speaker series that are just, presentations, but we wanted this to be different. So this is the whole point of eBridge. We're here to disrupt. We're here to make things different. We're here to bring these emerging industries to life. And if you are interested in exploring any industry, quality of life or tech, we are here to help you. eBridge is here to assist you in any way we can with all the resources that we have available. So take advantage of them, take advantage of us. So the university is also very, very mission-driven in keeping our talent. So we want to make sure that our graduates and our students have opportunities, but that's up to us, because we have to create those opportunities for them. So we have to do our due diligence as economic developers, as leaders in the industries, and just inspire them to stay home and create here. But if they want to go, come back. So because they also need an opportunity to explore what's out there in the world. So thank you very much for coming. Network for a little bit. We will still be here and kind of enjoy our speakers.
Can I say something? I just want to congratulate the mayor. He's nearing his end of his term, and thank you. Thank you for everything that you've done. And being in office is not easy. It's hard. You get a lot of critics. And sometimes you feel like, where's the North Star? So, thank you. Thank you for what you've done.
Thank you. Mayor, for everything you did. You were instrumental in the creation of eBridge. Your support was always there for us, and even though we were pushing and pushing, we finally have this beautiful building that is now home for all these resources and all these opportunities for you all. On behalf of the UTRGV Entrepreneurship and Commercialization Center and the Brownsville Community Improvement Corporation, we thank you for coming. stay tuned. We have more of the speaker series to come and a lot of programming that will be available to you to be able to take advantage. So thank you and have a good evening.